All right.
All right, good morning. My name is Leonardo, and I'm here to apply for the position of Arts Performance and Entrepreneurship and Applied Professor. And I first want to start by thanking you for the opportunity to share my research statement and my research vision towards entrepreneurship, music education, and performance. So this is, the quest of performance and entrepreneurship is an idea that I had for several years now, around probably a decade. But the only difference between that initial idea and now is that we didn't really have the definition of how to call it. And in recent years, especially throughout the pandemic, the word entrepreneurship became a worldwide known word, and sometimes even misconceptually treated. Okay, so the whole idea was to mix all my background that I have been working on in all these years as educator, researcher, and embarking in this journey of innovation, education, and the pursuit of artistic excellence.
Oh.
Right.
All right.
I submitted the ticket just now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that also calls for the integration of performance, pedagogy, entrepreneurship, intersection of music technology and business, the redefinition of the role of the musician of the 21st century. So some of the past accomplishments that I worked on always led me to the same question. Was academia aligned with all these new ideas? Coming from a family of educators, both my parents are traditional educators, I always had the question of how can we integrate education with performance, and so for us to have an audience that we can assure to have for many years to go. That has always been a question. And how can we use technology to integrate it into what we do as performers and as educators? And how would academia take this? Well, academia has taken a little longer than the normal citizen to work on and to acquire all these resources into their careers. And the best example of that was the pandemic. And I'm going to get into that in a couple of minutes. So, some of the other questions that I was asked was, how can we contribute? Okay? What the commitment is going to be. How are we going to promote the diversity in the arts? And all of that conglomerated together in one word, adaptability. We need to make sure that as artists and as educators, we're able to adapt to the new eras and to the new. So some of my experiences included musical experience collaboration and focusing on the transformative power of music. That's why we were targeting students from any kind of backgrounds to make sure that through music they were able to know a new path in their life, or probably find a new path in their life. This is a transformative approach that I have had ingrained since I was a kid, since I grew up within El Sistema. If people are not familiarized with, it's this social program through music that they built in Venezuela when I was a kid, and many of us musicians grew up through that system. It's not a philosophy per se; it is a way of life, and it is an opportunity for people of any background to find a way in a world that could be sometimes very hard to develop your future and to have a future in general. Okay, as many people, many people with international backgrounds, especially from Latin America, know what I'm talking about. It's really hard to be an artist or to become a good citizen in a world that doesn't offer too many opportunities for you to do so, especially if you come from the economically lower stratas of society. So, with all of that in mind, I started working on different areas, and I'm talking about the past because I want to make the comparison pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. Okay, so before the pandemic, I was basically working in what most people work on, in our field, promoting new music, collaborating with composers, premiering new music, recording new music, all merely in our area and just defined in the personal approach. Not that much using technology, not that much using other alternatives, because it was not a necessity at the time. Okay? Then the pandemic hit. And this is when things became interesting. Because we encounter ourselves, let me see if I can go again. I'm just going to use this way. We encounter ourselves having to use technology and adapt to technology. All of a sudden, from one day to another. Okay? We live that here at school. Sometimes at the end of the spring semester, we were all teaching from home. And then in the fall, we were here teaching from our computers in an empty room, with nobody here or not having the sense of who am I talking to. Okay? And this idea was actually embraced by the artistic world. Hence, why I focused some of my previous projects in writing these articles that were recently published by different journals. The Navigating the Post-COVID Creative Landscape and Reimagining the Creative Journey are two articles that are related with each other. One published at the International Journal for Music Entrepreneurship, and the other one published recently by the International Trombone Journal. What do they have related to each other? I did research on trombone players that were dedicated through and embracing technology into their areas of expertise despite their backgrounds. I choose people that became famous through technology. Okay? I also choose people that come from the traditional background and adopted technology as part of their whole work, and both work parallel to it. Then also I use the ones I mentioned a couple of musicians that actually, thanks to technology, they were able to portray what they do in real life. And that is the whole point of this program that I started imagining and creating and putting together around a year ago. And is to be able to transfer what we do in real life into the digital world and being able to spread it around the world. Okay? That is what I call the multifunctional musician of the 21st century. We need to make sure that what we do, the legitimacy that is behind of what we do in the classroom, what we do in real life, how much we impact our students, how much we impact the future of our field in real life in a tangible manner, is also being able to spread as legit information to as many people as we can. Through the pandemic again, there were too many people that created content, as a lot of people call it, creating this content out of the blue, out of the air, you know, what some people call selling smoke. Okay, they go in there, they portray themselves as entrepreneurs, as musicians, as whatever. They have all these flashy materials that in digital, you know, you see it on a social media platform or so, and it looks fantastic. But then when you go into the real life thing, they don't exist or are not applicable. Okay, so what we're doing here is actually produce content out of reality. And that is what the multifunctional idea comes from. Okay? So, if you're interested, you can visit the articles. Some of the links are in my website, but you can visit those there if you would like to. The last article I wrote was The Artful Entrepreneur. This one is the I could call it the ultimate result of the transition between just being a performer or focus on an individual field or an instrument like trombone and diversify into all the other areas of the music field. In this article, I wrote about the artful entrepreneur in general, describing a strategy that we all need to apply, not only as performers, but also as teachers, and also as creating a new field for our students and for our community. This strategy is based in 4 steps: visualizing, conceiving, believing, and achieving. The visualization part of it is the ambition that the musician needs to have in order to create the goals that they want to achieve. We cannot function or try to do anything if we don't have a specific goal. And in many occasions, our students don't have an idea of what their goals are. They just know they're in college because they have to be in college. And it's our job to show them, to serve as a path, as a guidance for them, to start building that visualization, how they see themselves in the future, not only professionally, in general, as human beings. At the end of the day, we're all humans. You know, we need to make sure that both hemispheres of our brain are finally working together. We're used to only make our left side of the brain work and follow, you know, a strict path and strict checkmark list and things like that. But we don't let the other side, which is the side that can take us further, to communicate. Okay? The left side doesn't know that this other side exists. Okay? So that is the visualization part that we need to have and we need to understand. And building this program became my visualization a year ago. I was looking for ways to fill some of the gaps that we have as a department. And it was a difficult task, let me tell you, because our department is very creative. So it's very hard to be creative and to come with something innovative when you are part of a team that is already very innovative and creative. Okay, so I needed to have a strict and a very, very, very clear vision of what I wanted to do. And that is how I put this together. Because at the end of the day, it was a simple answer. It wasn't too complex. And it was simply applying the same philosophy that I apply in my trombone studio. Just transpolated outside of the 4 walls of the studio. Because we're all musicians at the end of the day, our artists, and we all pursue some of the same goals. Okay, it's the same pursuit of happiness. So then the next step is conceiving the ideas. How are you going to make the goals happen? what your plan is. What's your music business plan? What is your plan for practicing? Going to the minimum example. How am I going to be able to win the audition that I have in 3 months? You need to conceive the plan. How are you going to achieve that? But then comes the hardest part, the believing part, which is when you have to actually apply and believe what you're doing, and that's going to take you to the goal, to the visualization. Okay? That is the one that is going to take the longest. Also, as teachers, is going to be the part that's going to take us the longest, because we need to convince the students, to encourage our students to be the best they can. But what happens when the student doesn't have that self-trust? So we have to show them that example. Okay? And then, the achievement. You achieve your small goal, even if as small as it is, still an achievement. Okay? And it's time to celebrate that achievement. Just make sure that, I just make sure that I teach my students to be able to attain achievable goals and pursue goals that are going to take them a step forward to the ultimate goal that they want. That way there is the orientation on what we're working on. That is basically what this last article talks about. So, after that, also parallel to the creation of the program, I was working on writing this book. Okay? The Art of Remote Practice and Pedagogy. I want this book to be at the level of a book like Golf is Not the Game of Perfect, for example. Or the Inner Game of Tennis. Books that, even though they are entitled to a specific field, they could be used in other fields for self-thought and self-learning and self-reflection. In this book, I basically talk about how to organize your practice time to achieve your goals. Once you achieve the goal, once you use the book throughout that journey, you're able to, if you want to, go back and start your next goal. And follow it again. And follow it again. And follow it again. So, as part of my future plans, is the second part of this book, which is going to be an entrepreneurial mind of the musician, in which I'm going to take these ideas forward to that. Okay? Basically based on the experience with our present students that are going to be part of the program and certificate. So, talking about the future, I created this Arts and Performance Entrepreneurship Initiative to impact academia, reimagine performance degree curriculum, which is very similar to the title that we recently presented for the National Association of Wind and Percussion Educators down in Miami, that I presented with my colleague, Dr. Mark Decker. And what we were talking about was reimagining this degree curriculum, integrating all of this together, especially for undergrad and grad school, and evolve the expectations for musicians that goes beyond performance. This actually, I was asked this question recently, very recently, of what would you tell a parent that is worried that their kid is taking music as a career, and all they can imagine is their kid playing an instrument. And this was part of my answer, okay? The expectations for musicians is very limited for people that don't know how the field works. But we need to learn how to communicate what we do here, and all the possibilities and all the opportunities that this future student is going to have as a professional. So, that's going to be part of the program and my vision for the future. So